Okay, great. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join our webinar today. And thank you to those of you who submitted any questions beforehand that you'd like to see covered. As a quick introduction, my name is Grace. I'm a senior account manager here at RelSci, and I'll be the one leading the webinar today. I'm also joined by my colleagues, or will be joined shortly by Ashley and Alexa. They're also on the account management team here at RelSci. They'll be participating in the Q&A portion of this session. So you'll have the ability to submit any questions that you might have along the way via the question box in GoToWebinar. What we're going to do is plan to leave some time at the end of the session to review any additional questions that come up, even though we'll be covering some of our frequently asked questions today. Of course, you're more than welcome to direct any other questions you might have directly to your account manager after this session, whether that's myself, that's Ashley, or that's Alexa. Just as a quick note, we have designed this webinar series based on client feedback that we've been receiving, and specifically for this webinar, these questions have really come from you, from our clients. And so for that reason, we really would appreciate it if you would just take 1 minute to fill out the survey that will be sent to you following this session. We want all of our webinars to be as helpful as possible and be sure that we are covering the topics that you are interested in learning more about. We do go through every single one of those responses, so please do take the time to let us know what you would like to see. And you can also find the schedule for any future sessions on the training page in the RelSci platform, which I'll show you in just a minute. We do update that page frequently, so you're always welcome to check to see what future sessions may be coming down the pike. You'll also have the opportunity to see a recording of this webinar following the session. That will be sent in a follow-up email to you tomorrow. You are more than welcome to share that with your colleagues, those who might not have been able to attend the session, or if you just want to rewind, recover any of those topics, you'll be able to do so as well. So with that, I will go ahead and get started. For the webinar today, we'll be switching between the PowerPoint, which you can see here, and the RelSci platform. We have a few frequently asked questions that were submitted by you all before the session. So we'll be covering those. Again, feel free to submit any questions you have along the way via the question box. So the first question we are going to be covering today, here we go, is what is the best way to keep my RelSci relationships fresh? And relatedly, are my RelSci relationships automatically updated? So if I can take your attention here to the RelSci platform, you should be able to see my account. And I would say the best way to make sure that your relationships, your RelSci relationships, are fresh is to frequently update these. Now, this is something that's going to have to be manually updated by you or your admin or your users, unless you are utilizing our tool Radar. Now, Radar is a tool that will automatically create relationships for you based on interactions you're having in your Exchange environment. And actually, my colleague Ashley will be leading a session in just a few weeks here on that Radar tool. So if you'd like to sign up for that or review any of those previous trainings that I was mentioning, just visit the RelSci training page here and you can learn more about the automatic relationship sync. But if you're not using Radar, you'll need to manually do that in your account. Now, the best way to do that is to log into your RelSci account here and go ahead and click on the Upload Contacts button, which you'll see on the right-hand side of the page. Now, if I go ahead and click into Upload Contacts here, you'll see there's a variety of ways that you'll be able to sync your relationships wherever it is that you store, that digital Rolodex of contacts. So some of our most popular contact upload methods include pulling those in from your Exchange, from your mobile device, from your Gmail account, so you can do that right here. And some other popular options are via file upload. So you would just come here, click upload file, and you'll see we also have options to sync any contacts, again, from your Outlook or your Gmail, but also from your LinkedIn or Salesforce accounts as well. If you use a different CRM, or if you just have these stored elsewhere, not a problem. You can always upload your contacts by downloading our custom template here at the bottom of the page, filling in that CSV file, and then just uploading here at the top of the page. Now, to make sure that these are fresh, what I typically recommend to my clients is setting up a reminder to come in and refresh these either quarterly, annually, monthly, depending on how your team functions. If this is something you'd like assistance with, you can always ask your account manager as well. We'd be happy to help you with those reminders and help with any frequent contact refreshes. So that's what I'd recommend. And then, of course, if you want to learn more about the Radar tool to auto sync those relationships, please join that webinar that we have coming up shortly. Now, the next question we have: why didn't all of my contacts sync to my RelSci account? So this is a question that we on the account management team see a lot. And the reason being, often there is not a 100% match rate for contacts being synced to RelSci. In order to sync a contact and create a relationship in RelSci, we are matching on specific data fields that you'll need to provide to us. So these are going to be the full name for that contact, so first name, last name, and then some kind of company affiliation. So this could just be adding the company where they work, or they sit on the board, or this could be providing a professional email address. We'll be able to read the domain of that email and match them accordingly. But that's the information we'll need minimally. So frequently something I see is just contact upload files that are missing some of those key data points. Without those fields, we won't be able to automatically create a relationship for you. So that can be one reason. Another reason that sometimes all of your contacts won't sync to RelSci is maybe they're not in our database. So right now, the RelSci database includes over 10.4 million individuals, so a very extensive database, but that's not everyone. So typically in RelSci, you're going to find highly influential individuals. So, named executives, board members, high net worth individuals, those who are really the decision makers. So if you have some contacts who might be, more mid-level or entry level, there could be just the potential that they're not in RelSci and they won't match. Now, one thing that not everyone is familiar with, let me just pull up RelSci again here, is the option to review your previous uploads to see who matched and who we might have a potential match for. Now, the way you access this is by coming back to your RelSci here and going ahead and clicking into your relationships on the right-hand side, or you can click your name in the upper right-hand corner and select relationship management from the drop-down. Now on this relationship management page, you'll be able to see all of your contacts who did sync, how they were uploaded, when they were uploaded to your account. But to get a full idea of your previous upload history, which contacts matched, which didn't, I always recommend utilizing the match history button, which you'll see right here at the top of the page under the relationship management title. So if I go ahead and click into match history, as I mentioned, what this is going to show me is a full history of uploads I've done into my account, relationship upload contacts. I'll be able to see the date, time that I initiated that upload. In this first column here, any new relationships, so those that were successfully added to my account. But as I mentioned, not everyone will match to RelSci. That is a frequent occurrence. And so in that case, you can review those potential matches. So those folks who we didn't have enough information on to 100% confirm it's the correct person. And you can just click into any of these uploads here to see who those potential matches are. Now on this page, you'll be able to see the data that you uploaded. So that's right here on the left-hand side, name, company, title, whatever you included on that upload sheet. And then on the right-hand side, who we think that potential match might be. So we can see here an example of a name match. So I uploaded someone named Michelle Berlin, Chief Revenue Officer in the market. We didn't have that individual in RelSci. We did have a Michelle Berlin, but we have a different title and organization here. So that's an example of why a contact wouldn't match. And if you want to review these, add any of these matches to your relationship count, to your shared network, you can do so right on this page. Okay, next question here. How can I see if I'm connected to a person or an organization? So great question. The way I would go about doing this is first just typing in the name of the person or organization into our search bar here in RelSci to pull up their profile. So I actually have the profile of Rosalind Brewer pulled up as a quick example. And this is where I would direct you initially to see if you have any connections. Pull up that profile and scroll down to this section here, My Firm's Path to that person or that company. Now, this is where you'll be able to see very quickly, does my organization have a direct connection to this person or this company? Do we have a first or second degree path to this person or company? That'll be reflected right on the profile. So we can see here an example of a direct connection between myself and Rosalind, already a contact I have. So I know right away that this is someone that I have a connection to. And I can also see some examples of some first degree paths as well. So some of my other contacts can also help to introduce me to Rosalind. So you can do this for any person or company. Just type the name of that entity into our search bar, and on the profile, you'll be able to see if you have any connections. Okay, next question here. How do you determine if two people know one another? So great question that we get all the time here at RelSci. In order to determine if two people know one another, there's going to be two things that happen in RelSci. The first is for any relationships that you and your colleagues have uploaded into your account, those proprietary private connections will be displayed right here in RelSci. So an example of this is I've uploaded Rosalind here as one of my contacts, and RelSci is telling me, you already have a direct connection. That's because I've uploaded that data. But what we can see below is an example of where our relationship likelihood algorithm comes into play. And this is what I imagine that question was hinting at. Now, in order to determine if two individuals know one another, our algorithm will look at their full professional histories to see if they've overlapped and if there's a likelihood they know one another. So in that review, we look at things like where have these two individuals worked throughout the years, what memberships do they have in common, any boards or committees they've been a part of, spousal, familial relationships, transactions they might have done together, and so on. And then after understanding, have these two individuals overlapped either personally or professionally, we try to predict the likelihood that they actually know one another. So in order to do that, we consider things like the size of that organization, that company, that board, their tenure, how long were they at that organization, how many years did they maybe overlap, their role and seniority. So did they both serve in very senior roles? Were they both on the same team? Or is it a super large organization where they serve in very different capacities? So our relationship likelihood algorithm is taking into account all of those different factors, and that's how we're establishing the likelihood they know one another. Now, as you're probably familiar, we show these with a visualization of the paths here, and these are color-coded throughout the platform. So red lines, like we're seeing here, are indicative of a strong likelihood those two individuals know each other. Orange will be average, and yellow will be weak. And to see all of those data points that our algorithm is picking up on, you just need to hover over the line here. So for an example, I know Stefano, and we think Stefano could help introduce us to Rosalind. We think these two people are connected. There's a strong likelihood they know one another, given all of their work at Walgreens and the relevant subsidiaries here as well. So you can see the shared organization and then their role and tenure. Another example here, we think there's a strong likelihood Howard and Rosalind know each other, given their connection at Starbucks, where Howard is CEO and executive chairman, president, etc. And Rosalind was the COO there and served in a number of other roles as well. So that is how we go about just establishing if two individuals know one another. Next question. How can I use RelSci to identify potential prospects or targets? So we have a lot of different search tools in the RelSci platform, which you will see on the right-hand toolbar here. I'm going to tell you the most comprehensive search tool and where I'd recommend you start your search is our tool Power Search here on the right-hand side. So I have Power Search pulled up in another tab. And what this tool allows you to do is navigate our entire database based on criteria that's important to you, so you can pull together those prospect lists. Now, you can search either by people or organizations, depending on who it is you're prospecting for. And you'll see we have a variety of criteria you can fill in order to establish that prospect list. So let's say, for example, I wanted to run a search looking specifically in the Miami area. I could go ahead and add Miami here in as my location. And if I want to make sure I'm only looking at primary office locations, I can just go ahead and tick that box here. And for the purposes of this example today, maybe I'm prospecting in the city of Miami and I'm looking for individuals who, care about medical research, advocacy, healthcare, and fundraising for a specific initiative related to that cause. If that was the case, what I would do is scroll down here to the donation section. So that's what I'm going to use for my example, but you can see there's lots of criteria here, career and board, education, compensation, etc. But I'm creating that prospect list. I want to see folks in Miami who care about medical research and advocacy. So I'm going to find those who've already donated to that cause. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in here. Again, we can narrow that down with the only primary cause button. And maybe I'm looking for at least 6-figure gifts. I know kind of what tier I'm focusing on for my research or for my campaign. So I want to see those who have donated at least $100,000 to medical research and advocacy before. I could fill all of that information in and click search, and this will go ahead and generate a short list of names for me from the RelSci database who match that criteria. Now that was a very specific example, but I'm sure you can imagine how you could do this for your own organization. Maybe you're a university and you want to find alumni in a certain field. You could do that with this tool. You could prospect for new board members to see, who has already served in that position in that field. Whatever it is you're looking for, just fill in that criteria, and this Power Search tool should help generate those results. I won't get too specific into all of the fun things you can do with this. You're welcome to reach out to us for any additional questions or check out our previous trainings by clicking the RelSci training page here. But you should see all of your results listed, why they matched, and then you can go ahead and work on your project from there after you've identified those prospects. Okay, next question. What type of data do you capture on people? And how can I know if it's been recently updated? That's a great question. In order to illustrate what type of data we capture on people, I think it would be helpful to look at a profile we have for an individual. So you can see here, I have pulled up the profile for Christine, Chairman, Management Board, and President at the European Central Bank. And if we scroll through Christine's profile, you'll get a great sense of the information that we capture on individuals. So at the top of the page here, any news alerts that concern that individual, when has she been mentioned in the news, what is she working on right now? Any contact data, if we have that available, that's something you can unlock directly by purchasing records here on the site. The top connections you have to that individual, as we already reviewed. A section on their relationship summary. So who is this person? Where are they connected? What does their network look like? In the case with Christine here, we can see she's involved in government, legal, chambers of commerce spaces. We can see the top sources of her relationships. What industries is she or organizations rather, is she really connected to? We can see her top relationships here and click see all for a full view of her network. If we continue on, info on family, info on education, interests, affiliations, summary of her career, any boards or committees, listing out corporate boards, as well as government boards, nonprofit boards, advisors, consultants, comp, awards and honors, events, etc. So you'll see that these profiles are generally pretty robust, and we capture a wide variety of information. The second part of that question was, how can I tell if this has been recently updated? So you may have noticed as we scrolled through Christine's profile here briefly, that we don't have any indication on the profile when this has last been updated. I know that's something that our clients have asked for in the past, but is not a current functionality. So if you ever want to have a profile updated or just learn a little bit more, you are welcome to submit a profile request directly at the top of the page by clicking the RelSci Services button right here and going ahead and submitting a profile request or data error to our team. They should be able to refresh that for you and let you know if there's any new information that needs to be added to that profile. Okay, next question, relatedly, where does RelSci source its data? So this is a great question. Primarily, the data you will see in RelSci is coming from a publicly verified source. So if we pull up the example of Walgreens profile here, you can actually see some of those sources reflected directly on the profile. So we pull in data from press releases, news articles, which often you'll see reflected here at the top of the page in the 360 alerts, and you can see all for more. We also create these profiles based on publicly verifiable data from company websites, which we will have linked if relevant on the profile down here. Any government filings, so we can see some examples of those as well, and we could just click into any one of these to be brought directly to that specific filing. And we do also source data from our third-party data vendors as well. So a few you may be familiar with: LexisNexis, FactSet, GuideStar, etc. And specifically when it comes to sourcing contact data, which we can see here for James, the president and CEO at Skin Store, which is owned by Walgreens here. That data is going to be coming from a third-party vendor, in most cases Dun & Bradstreet. So a combination of publicly verified data that our research team is adding into RelSci, as well as data that we've received from those vendors that we partner with. Okay, next question here. How can I be alerted if my contacts are in the news? It's a great question. We have a tool that's always available on your homepage. You can get to your homepage just with this button here at the top, called My 360 Alerts. And what this tool allows you to do is create customized news and alerts for any individuals or organizations that are in our database. You can narrow that down by topic, keyword, etc. If you were interested in setting up an alert on your relationships anytime they're in the news, what I would recommend doing is coming to this tool here, clicking News Search, and then selecting the second option, Relationships and Lists. Now, in this first box where it says Relationships, I would just go ahead and add my relationships directly. If you want to be alerted of your colleagues' relationships in the news, you could add that as well. And if we just go ahead and click Search here, what the My 360 tool, My 360 Alerts tool rather, is going to do is show us any time that our relationships have been mentioned in the news. So we'll be able to scroll through, read those articles directly. But if you want to continually be notified, as the question suggests, all you have to do is hit the follow button right here. You can give this alert a name, whatever makes sense to you, and click Save. And now anytime one of your relationships is mentioned in the news, you should receive that update right on your homepage. And if you'd have enabled news briefings, that will come to your inbox as well. All right, and the last question we have here is, how can I refine my existing RelSci news alerts? So you will be able to use that same 360 alerts tool here to make more nuanced, more refined alerts as well. You'll see that in the case of an alert on my relationships, I have the option to narrow this down by topic or keyword. So let's say I don't want to know every single time one of my contacts is in the news. That might be a little bit overwhelming. I just want to see when those folks are in the news, maybe for board and executive moves, or perhaps donation and philanthropy. Or maybe I want to see when they're in the news, given any earning announcements or financial results. I could fill in those topics. And if I'd like to get even more granular, a keyword here. And if I just go ahead and click Search and go ahead and click that follow button, now I will be able to see more specific targeted news stories based on my network. That works the same way for any one of these topics. And if you're not seeing what you're looking for, go ahead and try the advanced search button here on the right-hand side. You'll see this allows you to get very specific with what you want included in that feed, relationships, lists, industry, causes, etc. And in addition to narrowing down by topic or keyword, you'll also have the option to limit that even further by source. So if you're receiving the same story multiple times as it gets picked up by certain sources, as that news cycle happens, you could go ahead and narrow your results to a few trusted sources so that you're just seeing those articles when they're published by that publisher. you're welcome to do that. And if you want to remove any current alerts you have, if that is a part of your refining process, you can go ahead and click the alert settings button here at the top of the page. That will show you any current feeds you have set up, and you can just either enable those or exclude them here. All right, fantastic. So those were all of the questions we received and wanted to cover today. So what I will do is open it up for our Q&A session here. If you haven't already, please feel free to submit any remaining questions you have within the questions box. We'll give it a few minutes for those questions to come in, and then we'll go ahead and dive in. Okay, so I haven't seen any questions submitted yet via the question box. So what I will plan to do is just wrap up the session here. If you have any final thoughts, feel free to submit here as I wrap up. But I really appreciate everyone taking the time out of your morning to join the webinar session today. I hope you found this session informative and helpful. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to your account manager directly. We're always happy to address those one-on-one or in a group setting, depending on your preference. As I mentioned, a survey will be sent out following the session and tomorrow in a follow-up email. So please do take some time to fill that out. And thank you all again for joining. Have a wonderful week. All right, goodbye.